Croissant
Okay.
Park does not reside within the South Rack. They're an adjacent neighborhood. They're on the other side of the track.
Okay.
But at the first meeting, Croissant Park was there. They made comments. There was a concern, but it's the regional activity center. So it's really interesting that the neighborhood association that is in the rack, the most affected by this whole thing, all the members but maybe one voted in favor of what the city had presented to us the second time.
Okay.
So I would not defer this. It's like Mike said, there's an opportunity for them to speak to their commissioners about it, but we found that it was consistent with some of the other rack neighborhoods, which had this similar incentives. And Croissant Park was represented at the first meeting. I don't know why they didn't show up the second time.
Okay.
Because Ray Detman, who runs Poinciana Park Civic Association, he's really good about inviting the adjacent neighborhood. So I think we should move this thing forward, and I don't want to defer it. The city was not, and let's all remember, the reason it got deferred in the first place is because I'm a member of that association.
Right.
And I said, hey, guys, I don't think this has been heard or presented to us. And the city went over there and presented twice.
Okay, I got
So for
you.
us to do this again.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's hear from the board members, and let's give the neighborhood an opportunity to speak before we vote. Anybody else want to make a comment on this?
I do.
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
On a higher level, about approving something from the P&Z and sending it to commission that's not finished and it has things open. We've done that at least 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 months. And I've sat at commission meetings where the commissioners have to ask questions and become experts on the whole thing. And some things get changed at that sort of thing. We are the advisory board, and we should have all our ducks in a row and not send something up with open items or items added after us that get reviewed and then talked about, and then other public gets out there and talks to it without having discussed with us. So in general, it's not the right thing to do. Now, as far as this one goes, I'd like to ask Mr. Weymouth, what's the window? What is the window you're talking about? If we wait another month, are we losing a window of a budget with the county or something that says we may never get these units? What's your thinking there?
I have a hard enough time understanding how one government works. When you get 2 governments working together, it blows up. I don't know exactly what the window is, but the county allocates X number of units, and I think everything happens before everybody takes the summer off. So if everything gets kicked down the road a month or so, and maybe one government can explain it a little better because you guys deal with it all the time, but if it gets deferred till March and then it doesn't get heard at the city level by the commissioners until May or June, I don't know when the county quits allocating, but I know that it's a very sensitive issue. And I know that, again, they're out of units, so the sooner we can get units, the sooner we can start approving newer developments. Down in the South Rack, where, it'd be nice to see some expansion.
Okay, Jay?
A question for staff.
I'll get you, Bill, next.
Is this item, if approved, does that allow the zoning, the density to increase from 50 to 100 units and offer additional units that can be allocated to developments in the city? Or is it only just changing the code and it doesn't necessarily add more units? I'm not seeing where we get more units out of this.
So we have a presentation ready for tonight to Steve's point that, the changes that we made between the last meeting and this meeting would be presented to you all tonight. So you would get to vet that information and either move it forward or, recommend different changes to it. Adam can certainly go over all those details as far as the increased density, because I do think there was a lot of confusion about that. But to the member Bronco's points, it is very similar to the way that we have adopted the changes or proposed the changes throughout the other regional activity centers. So it's really not only addressing some of the concerns that we've heard, but also aligns the policy closer so that it's consistent across the board.
Let's try to really focus on whether or not we're going to defer this, and then we can, Bill Rotella?
Well, we're talking about deferring it, and yet the city has prepared a presentation that I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear what they've done. You can always defer it after everybody. I'm not sure who the woman is. Is she here to speak?
Yes, Pat's going to speak on the issue. We just
Okay.
have gotten kind of out of sync here.
Yeah, it would seem to me that if she's going to speak, that the presentation that she's going to speak about, that we should hear the presentation from the city first, or I personally would like to hear the presentation from the city so that I'm as informed as I can be beyond what I've read in the material that's been given to me.
So, can I just say one thing, and that's fine, Bill, and I am happy to change the order that we're doing this, but I have a real problem that we pick some neighborhoods and do presentations, and we don't do them for others. It's pretty clear to see who lives within a certain, area. You can't really, and I drive this every single day, multiple times, do I know where Croissant Park is and where, yeah, I know where the two neighborhoods are, but they really are right abutting each other. I mean, I just think that inviting them to, Ray does a great job, and he invites people and gets them to his association, but at some point, I think we have a policy on presenting to neighborhoods, and I think we should be consistent in that policy. It sounds to me like we're being driven by a need for units. That's great, but let's not make changes in a hurry. We just sat through this with Central Beach, which we were going to pass on to the commission because, because they could fix it there. And so last night we're praying, we're hoping that they're going to change that zero setback thing, but we don't know that. So I guess I'm just echoing what Steve said. I'd like to see us send something complete and not send it to the commission with, we know we're in a hurry, so we don't have time to do a good job. And Bill, with that, I will, who seconded it, Jay?
Oh, there was no motion.
No one's, okay.
Can I speak to this?
Steve, okay. I'm happy to remove my motion, but I'm going to renew it the minute they do the presentation, so if that's.
Okay. Pat, I think we're going to let you speak after the presentation. I think it's the will of the
I
board.
think you, Madam Chairman, if I may, can you hear me?
Yeah. Speak in the
Oh, if your
microphone.
mic's on.
Okay, is it on? It says leave on. It's,
It's on over here.
Okay.
can you hear me?
These things, you can't hear through them.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The
Not
issue
impact mic.
before you was the original, before Mary suggested she might withdraw it. If I could just speak to the deferral. The gentleman from Poinciana Park said that presentations were made to Croissant Park. I am the president of the Croissant Park Civic Association. We never received a notice from the city. We never were contacted by the city. There's no mystery to finding me. I've been the president over there for 10 years. So we were not invited to any meeting. We happened to have one member at the one meeting who ran into Ray Detman outside the Minute Clinic, and Ray said, "Oh, you should come tonight. We're having this thing." So if she hadn't run into him on the street, nobody in Croissant Park would have known about this. So the fact we were not represented at that meeting. We were told at that meeting, "Oh, we don't have to make a presentation to you because you're not in the South Rack." Well, I could stand in the South Rack, and one of my superpowers is spitting, and I can spit from the South Rack into Croissant Park. It's the only thing that separates the South Rack from Croissant Park is the railroad tracks. And speaking of the railroad tracks, the affordable housing project that was built just south of 17th Street on Andrews Avenue, they were told that they didn't need park space or anything for their residents there because they could go across the railroad tracks and use Croissant Park. Now, yesterday they announced 49 people had been killed so far by Brightline. So they're suggesting that people that are in that residential complex that they just built for affordable housing go across the railroad tracks and use Croissant Park. They also allowed them to have one parking space per unit because we were told that poor people, and I'm quoting, poor people don't have cars. So one parking space per unit when you can have up to 5 adults in a unit. Where are those people going to park? They're going to park in Croissant Park because that's the only place that they can park. So the suggestion that this is not impacting the residents of Croissant Park is ludicrous. So we would like to have a presentation. Yes, we do have a presentation. Supposedly the city has agreed to do it at our Civic Association meeting on the 22nd. We've advertised it. We expect a large turnout. It'll be the first presentation that the city has made, and we have asked you to defer this action until after the city can do what you asked them to do in November, and that is meet with the affected associations.
Okay, Pat, why don't you unless the board feels differently, why don't we let them give the presentation? And then I want to give you some time to talk again, if you want.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be hearing this presentation for the first time, so I haven't prepared comments to the actual ordinance.
Right.
And I really, with all due respect to everybody else's feelings, I understand the concern. You're looking at postponing this to March 16th. You're not going to lose units. I've been a land use attorney for 40 years. A month, I started when I was 16. A month delay is not going to lose you units. And what it will do is allow you to do what you said you were going to do and what you told the staff to do, and the staff ignored you. And we would like to have a presentation February 22nd. I'm not prepared to make comments to this ordinance tonight because I haven't met with my board on it, and we haven't had the presentation from the city.
Okay.
So if you could possibly, those of you who were not originally in favor of it, defer this to March 16th, I think that would be the fair thing to do.
Okay, thanks for your comments, Pat. Okay, board?
I just want to say, we have 2 city items that we've now deferred twice, on item 1 and item 2 tonight. And I just feel like, we should give the benefit to the neighborhoods of the citizens that live here. And I understand Mike's concern. I think if we do this March 16th and we've held to what we've said on our thing about deferring, we've held to that consistently about not going on month after month. It's generally the applicant that does that. So I would just like to see us give this neighborhood the presentation, get it on the 16th, and then the commission can do it in April and take action. So
Are you making another motion, Mary?
Well, I made a motion and Steve seconded it, and I haven't
Okay.
moved it yet. I'm just.
Okay.
if we-
I think she wants to vote.
Yes, Sherry?
So what stops us in March for this happening again? What assurances do we have that this takes place, it's supposed to, and that we just can't keep kicking the can?
What I'm hearing is that there's a desire for the neighborhood to be able to meet with staff, understand the issue, and maybe support this.
One more neighborhood, so there isn't anybody else who's
No,
stepped out of the loop?
no. No. This is the only neighborhood that feels that they're affected. There was other neighborhoods that were presented, but they weren't. So I think their desire is to listen to it, make recommendations, accept it, endorse it, embrace it, or say, could you please change this or look at that and have it back to us by the March 16th meeting. And then it's over. I mean, we voted up or down.
Madam Chair, if I can, 2 other associations have contacted us that were not made a presentation to, River Oaks and Harbor something or other.
Are they affected,
Dale.
Pat?
And River Oaks slightly, but not so much. But they both have agreed to come to our Civic Association meeting on the 22nd and hear that presentation. So I think the concern that there would be other associations that came up and said, oh, that nobody contacted us is not going to happen because they've all agreed to come to the Croissant Park one on the 22nd.
I mean, I can see both sides of this. I can see both sides of this argument, but
Well, I'm just
I
thinking,
just
if
think-
we're gonna do it, let's make sure that we encapsulate everybody who does need to.
correct.
Presentation, so somebody else doesn't come up and say, we didn't hear it either.
I totally agree. This is it, if we pass this deferral. Okay, we're still speaking to the motion. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, I mean, again, we haven't seen the presentation ourselves, so, I'd like to hear whether, after we hear it, make it whatever decision you want to make, but I'd at least like to hear it. We're gonna let the city walk out of the room, go make a presentation to the homeowners, and we still don't know what that presentation is, other than what we've been handed. I'd like to know what effort's been expended to talk to the homeowners, and what's behind all of this.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're going to hear the whole presentation. If we defer it, we're going to hear the whole presentation March 16th, and we will have the neighborhoods hopefully supporting it because they've worked all the kinks out. So I think we need to vote on the motion to defer before we hear a presentation. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels here.
I'd like to ask one more question to staff. Didn't we hear this presentation already?
Yeah.
Except it's changes, right? In other words, we've gone through this once.
This has actually been deferred, it was deferred from November to January, and we ultimately brought it back in February because we went back and met with the neighborhood association another time. So it was November, and the presentation has changed because we have new recommended changes based on what was discussed at the November meeting, and those changes have been incorporated. So we would like to at least get some feedback on those in case the board has any other things that they want us to discuss, but it's absolutely up to the board as far as, how they want to vote.
Okay.
I would
So
support.
I think we need to vote on the deferral, ladies and gentlemen.
And before we
figure
do,
out
I just have one more comment, Jackie. I don't have a call button over here, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I know that it doesn't work, so I'm
Okay.
trying to be the best moderator I can.
So I'm just gonna be abrupt then.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want everybody to appreciate the irony here is that we deferred this to go to the neighborhood association. They had 2 meetings with the neighborhood association that's most affected. I will tell you that, and I stand corrected, I didn't realize the person who was at that meeting wasn't on the board, but somebody from Crescent Park was at the first meeting, and I will tell you Marilyn Mamano from Harbordale, who was just mentioned, the Harbordale Association, they were also invited, and they're regular invites to ours because they're right across Federal Highway. So the associations were invited the first time. I don't know why they weren't invited the second time, but the fact that we're going to consider deferring it again this month, and what's going to happen the month after that, another neighborhood association down the street wants to look at this thing too. So I'd rather not defer this thing. I want to get this thing going. And what we're talking about is so complex. One, this is just a modification. There are no units available. Nothing we vote on today, if we don't defer it, affects the number of units available. That's a whole other thing.
That's what I was
to go
saying.
through, right? That's one. Two, this entire district, the South Rack, has never been rezoned. That's a whole other thing that needs to be done where we're going to take a look at it again. So as much as everybody wants to think that making this modification to 100 units per acre is going to make a huge difference, unless there's a rezoning down there and unless we get more units allocated in the South Rack is going to remain the way it is for the next 5-10 years. Nothing's going to happen. So this is one little cog in the machine that has to be done so that we're consistent with the rest of the city.
Okay.
There's nothing different about the South Rack that would make it unique.
I want to make a comment, Mary, then I'll let you speak. We kicked the can down the road for 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months because we had people in the audience complaining that we couldn't properly do a tree ordinance. And every time they came up, we kicked the can. And I wanted that ordinance passed because it was so integral and so important to our neighborhoods. So now we're in a situation where we try to do everything we can to support the neighborhoods and give them every opportunity, as staff does, but sometimes things fall through the cracks. So, I'm in favor, obviously, I think you can tell, of giving them the opportunity, but it's really the board's decision. Mary wants to speak. Go ahead.
And if there are no units, and if it's going to have to be further changed, and if this is meaningless, why can't we wait a month? I don't understand what the harm is in waiting a month and giving the opportunity to Croissant Park, and Pat has said, and I know she's been there, I think it's more than 10 years, Pat, but okay. She's been the president for a long time, so have the others in the area. I just think they'll get the people to the meeting, and then we can do it next month.
Okay.
And if we come next month and hear the same thing, I'm going to say, we said last month to get everybody to this meeting.
That's it, yeah.
So,
Let Jay speak, please.
I agree with Mary that I don't think that a month will make or break anything, but if we do proceed with the motion that is on the table now, I will vote no because I would like to hear the presentation before deciding as a group to defer.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, then I'm going to say, let's have the presentation and then vote to defer. But with that, I don't understand why we can't have the presentation anyways, because we've had plenty of presentations on things that are coming before us that we've then considered the following months.
If we're going to defer the vote, let's defer the presentation. Doesn't make sense to watch something that more than likely, if there's now sounds like at least 3 neighborhoods that are going to weigh in on it, something's going to change. And I don't want to have to sit through it twice.
I agree with you, Mike. We're either going to defer this or we're going to
I
vote.
appreciate it. I'd be interested to see what they said if we're going to send it down. But if the motion and the second is already to defer it, let's just defer the whole package.
I agree with you. I don't want to hear it twice either. Okay. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor to defer this to a time certain, March 16th, so that Croissant Park and 2 other neighborhoods are going to attend a meeting with the city to listen to this, make their comments, and this will come back to us March 16th if the board supports this. If there's no other comments, please call the roll. Or the vote, however you say it. You in, Brad? You heard everything, right? You're awake? Bradley, you're awake, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
Sorry, I had to take it off mute.
It's okay.
Mr. Barranco?
No.
Mr. Cohen? Can he vote?
You say Cohen?
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Fertig?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Rotella?
No.
Mr. Scheckman?
No.
Mr. Weymouth?
No.
Chair Scott?
Yes. I believe the motion carried.
Yes. It was, hold on.
Okay. I think that was a tough one, but it is what it is. Okay.
Wait. I counted more no's,
I have
correct?
4.
3 noes and 4 yeses.
No.
No, repeat the vote, please, because I wrote it down and something's wrong.
Mr.
Who
Cohen?
voted for what? Mr. Cohen
Doing
said
it all over
no.
again, Brad.
I said yes.
Okay, yes, okay. Ms. Fertig?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney? Mr. Rotella?
No.
Mr. Scheckman?
No.
Mr. Weymouth?
No.
Mr. Barranco?
No.
And Chair Scott?
Yes.
5-4.
5 to 4.
Yeah, 5 to 4. 5 yeas, 4 noes.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We shall move to okay, next, we'll go back to item number 3 on the agenda, case number 3 UDP-Z22001, rezoning of B3 UVVNE Uptown Urban Village. Is Jim making the presentation, or? Okay. Super.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, good evening, board members. Michael Ferreira, urban planner, the case planner for this item.
You can take your mask off since you're by yourself.
That would be very helpful.
I'd prefer leave it on if possible. I'll try to speak up louder if you can hear me.
No problem, go ahead.
Thank you. Michael Ferreira. So I'm the case planner on this item. What you have before you is a rezoning request for an area of the Uptown from property owner Double Mountain Development Ventures LLC. So this is part of a program where the city processes the rezoning if the property owners give consent to rezone to the Uptown zoning district that's applicable to the property. So in this case, the request is to rezone from B3 county zoning to the Uptown Urban Village Northeast District. The site is a little bit over 2 acres at 2.06, and all the backup material, including the consent form, has been provided in your package in order to process the rezoning, and I'll be here if you guys have any questions.
Is this being rezoned for a specific project? Because I know that in Uptown Urban Village, that's one of the benefits of any developer going in there.
Yes, they haven't gone through DRC yet. They've had a couple of pre-development meetings, but they haven't submitted as of yet.
Okay,
I'll need to fill out a conflict form on this one.
okay, here you go. I got one, John.
John, Jackie's handing it to you.
I'm kidding. Okay.
Fair enough.
Do we need John to state his conflict, Shari? I think we do, John.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. There's something off with the sound, sorry. But yes, can you please state the conflict, why you're not
So
voting?
on page 2 of Exhibit 1, the owner's name is my client. If he's in fact the owner of this property, I am conflicted.
Are you talking about the consent form?
And just to be clear for the
Jack
record.
Fleshner,
Okay, thank you. Just to be clear for the record, Brad is not participating because it's a quasi-judicial item, and he's appearing virtually. So just to be clear for the record.
Did you say he's not participating in this, or he is?
Not on this item, because it's
Brad.
quasi-judicial, yeah.
And so
that's correct.
John's also not participating?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for the city? Yeah, do we have any disclosures on this? Mary visited this site. I know that whole Uptown Village very well, so I know I've been there.
Steve Gannon site visit.
Okay. No other disclosures, board? Okay. Okay. Any discussion? Any questions for the city?
I
Any
have a
motions
question.
to approve?
I have a question for the city. Mike, thanks. You can't put the map up, can you?
I don't have
Okay.
like an actual presentation for it.
Okay, and my question is, part of the map is shaded and part has a red line around it. What's the shaded area that's outside of the red line then?
Well, it's not part of the rezoning, it's not part of the property.
Not part of the property and not part of the rezone, but also not part of the property. Okay, I was confused about that.
Yeah.
And, okay, in this front, and I also saw that this was an office condominium at some point, meaning it had many different owners or an ownership association of different people. And now it's owned by one person?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
Any other questions from the board? I would just like to say I'm very excited about Uptown Urban Village. I hope this really takes off.
I love driving up there.
I know, it's like such an opportunity. Anyway, any other
Driving
questions?
past there.
Pardon me?
It's not fun driving past there on 95.
Yeah.
Big backup.
Okay, if there's no questions, does anyone entertain a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Mary moves to approve. Jay seconds.
Second.
Okay, do we need roll call on this? We do. Okay, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 I'm abstaining.
Yes, he's abstaining.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, excellent. I have something I want to bring up for the good of the city, but I'll go last if somebody else has something they'd like to talk about. No, Mary, you don't have anything to talk
I
about.
have something.
Do you want to talk first? Do you want me to talk first?
I'll go last.
Makes no difference.
Okay, guys, I forget to do this every time I'm going to go. So I have been wondering if we could.
Uh-oh.
No, this is just a thought, and actually I've talked to my district commissioner who appointed me on this. But you know, we have so many people crying for open space in Fort Lauderdale, and we have all these small little properties that we own all over the city. And I just wonder if,
What do you mean by small little properties all over the city?
do you want me to get you the map?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you know, you know, we're always looking at a combined acreage as a park, but what if we just had some green spots, like what's happened on Las Olas? If you had half an acre, or you had a home in a neighborhood that you could turn into green space, what if we looked at opportunities to identify things? It's not going to be everything, but it might be some of the city properties that could then become green space, open space.
So you're saying the ones that are owned by the city?
Yeah, oh, I'm not talking about the ones owned by you, no, I'm talking about.
No, I don't own them, but I'm,
So, yeah, that's what I just think it's.
little
you don't have
pocket
to-
parks, I
just
think is
wanted
what
to
you're
have people
describing.
think about this and then see if there was some way we could propose to the city that they look at opportunities for greening up the city.
You talking about pocket parks like Sunrise Intercoastal has that nice little pocket
Yeah,
park?
yeah,
in
but
their
this would be
neighborhood?
on a city-owned piece of property where they have it, where it's not in use, where it's possible, and I think that they could identify some and it would make a difference.
But didn't neighborhoods, Mary, when we got to we were talking about the park bond and everything, weren't the neighborhoods all coming forward and suggesting to the commission, we've got a little parcel in our neighborhood we'd like to convert to a park? I mean, isn't that something that
I
we've
think
already done?
I think some neighborhoods do, but I don't think all neighborhoods do.
So what do you want to do?
It depends on who. I just want you all to think about it, and we'll go to Jay and we'll talk about it another time and maybe have the map in front of us and
Okay.
come up with a real live example of how we could do it. But it's just an opportunity, and, you know, there's a lot of research on climate change and what it will mean to have more green areas. And this just seems like something we could do that would make people feel happy and not really have a negative impact. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Super.
All right, Jay.
Jay?
The last speaker, Pat, from the public, Croissant Park president of the Civic Association, brought to our attention that, you know, residents of this new affordable housing project off 17th Street are likely to cross the railroad tracks to just go to Croissant Park. I'd like to bring to everybody's attention that there are about 4,000 units in the construction pipeline south of the New River, and there's absolutely nothing separating any portion of the FEC right-of-way from any of those units today. I was hopeful that as part of the Lauderdale initiative, which the master plan was recently approved, if any of you saw.
Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you. I was hopeful that we could make that a priority for the project and develop that phase first from Riverwalk all the way to 17th Street along the FEC right-of-way. I'm not sure exactly how cooperative FEC will be in assisting us to make that the first phase, but I think regardless, something should be done, whether it be Lauderdale, because if they so decide to cooperate and you know, make that the first phase of Lauderdale, or if not Lauderdale, then the city or FEC should install protection to prevent people from crossing the right-of-way.
It sounds like it's a big safety issue that we should.
It's a massive safety issue. I'm the president of Tarpon River Civic Association, as some of you may know. I'm in that area all the time, and at any given moment during the day, today, with no one living there, there are people that are just walking right across because it's more convenient. So this is about to be a massive issue in terms of pedestrian safety, and I think that we need to be proactive in addressing it.
I agree with you. Ella, is there anything going on from a staff perspective in regards to making it safe so that people aren't running across the railroad tracks that you're aware of?
It's really more a question of transportation mobility, or for transportation mobility staff, as far as the coordination of some of those improvements, and then what's going to ultimately happen with the Lauderdale plan. I will say that, you know, we had tried in the past as a staff, as a city, to create a crossover connection over the FEC Railway closer to the New River, and that was very difficult. So I do believe that, you know, we would have to obviously work closely with that agency on any such improvements as far as where it's appropriate and what else is needed. They did obviously create some additional improvements before the Bright Line went in. We all see those along the tracks. connecting us to Miami and West Palm Beach. But I'm not aware of any other specific efforts at this time.
Do you think, Jay, do you want to see if we want to send a communication to the city commission to ask staff to be, I mean, I don't think this is something we should wait on. I think it is critically important for safety. Don't you guys?
I'm not sure this is a P and Z issue.
What'd you
I
say,
agree
Mike?
with the safety aspects of it, but this isn't a P and Z issue. So I'm not going to send some up to that. And quite frankly, I appreciate what you're trying to do, Jay, and I hope it's successful. If the mayor gets his tunnel, it's going to come out right where you're wanting to put your Lauder Trail. So you're going to have to do it twice, or the Mockingbird Trail or whatever.
Yeah,
But Mike, I might be wrong, but in a way, I think it is, because we are the planning arm supposedly of the city. And as we continue to develop the downtown and add more and more units, and when we're aware that this is a dangerous situation, Shari, isn't it our purview to recommend or ask the city commission to ask staff to consider this?
I mean, that possible bridge, pedestrian bridge type of thing, you could send communication to the commission regarding that, and they could determine whether or not they'd like to make that a part of their projects going forward. So you can.
Okay.
Whatever the, suggestion is to deal with the issue.
I mean, the suggestion would be, well, first I just want to put on the record that I have met personally with FDOT and discussed all 4 of the tunnel/bridge options they're studying, and none of those would adversely impact the length from the New River to 17th Street as proposed under Lauder Trail, more than 10% of the whole length. So there isn't a real conflict there. And also, I think the suggestion would be, like, we are the planning authority. We're part of city planning that is allowing for thousands of units. I know FEC and Brightline are aware of the incidences that are happening, but I think we also have a social responsibility to, when we see thousands of people who are about to live there and many people every day crossing, putting their lives at risk, I think we have a social responsibility to put that in front of the commission.
They don't drug them and send them out the door walking around. I mean, come on, guys, it's a freaking train. There's lights. Seriously.
But the fact
That's what you ought to be
that, the
planning.
fact that they're counting on that
Okay.
park space at Croissant Park to fulfill park requirements or whatever across the railroad track.
That wasn't
I
a
don't
good
know what's
statement.
across the track, but I think it's a school. And I think
is.
that there is a park, and I'm
Yeah.
sure the park is closed after sundown or 9 p.m. or whatever. So people aren't parking their, they may be, and they may be doing it illegally. Gets back to enforcement, like so much stuff. So,
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I'm
I
not,
don't see it as P and Z. I see it as
well, I want to just be clear, I'm not talking about that specific project.
I know you are.
I just
know-
imagine, like, if in Flagler Village, like, there's fencing there to prevent all of the 8 to 12-story buildings that, are walking to the American Icon Brewery. If that fencing wasn't there, a lot of people would be walking across the railroad tracks. The only difference is that on the south side of the river, the buildings that we have approved and under construction are over 40 stories.
And who put the fencing there?
There is no fencing on the south
No,
side.
on the north side up by,
The city.
huh?
The city.
The city put the fencing on the FEC?
Okay, so let's decide what we're going to do. Are we going to just, what would you like to see if the board would like to do, Jay?
I don't know. I'll move that we make a communication to the city commission that in light of the proposed development on the south side of the river, that there should be protective measures between the development and the FEC railroad.
Is there a second to that?
Fencing.
Who seconded it?
I'll second it.
Mary's seconding it. Okay, all in favor of saying that communication to the city commission, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, we'll send that. Good, right?
You asking me?
Did you want to
Different
send
to me.
anyone to the commission to explain exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah,
I'm
Jay
happy.
Shipman will
I'm
be
happy to
appointed
go.
that position.
Okay.
Putting up fences.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
like to bring,
sometimes they ask questions and then staff
Jay
is,
Scheckman will present to the commission
Okay,
on that.
thanks.
Okay, I'd like to bring
Mayor
up,
doesn't like fences, just remember that.
Yeah. I want to, briefly, I want to tell you that something has come up. I'm on the noise committee. And as you know, that's a big issue right now with the beach downtown, parts of Las Olas, et cetera. And in our discussion at the last meeting, what came up was I learned about something called agent of change, which is being adopted. It's been adopted in San Francisco and other cities. And I just want to tell you what it is. And I think it's appropriate for this board because I think, well, let me just tell you, the agent of change principle places the responsibility for mitigating impacts from existing noise-generating activities or uses on the proposed new noise-sensitive development. In other words, the person or business responsible for the change must also be responsible for managing the impact of the change. For example, if housing is going to be built near an existing music venue, it is the responsibility of the house builder or developer to ensure the new dwellings incorporate appropriate noise attenuation measures. This is a situation that we have a lot in our city with the way the downtown is growing. You've got all these different factions fighting about noise. And so other cities have adopted this agent of change, whereby if you have an area that is designated, or let's say we're going to change it to an entertainment area, but it's loaded with residential high-rises. Well, as an entertainment venue comes in, they become the responsible party to make sure their noise doesn't destroy the quality of life of the people that already live there. I think it's such a practical thing. I would like to see us recommend to the city staff that we have staff look into this. I don't know if it would become an ordinance, how we would do it, but it seems very practical to me.
But can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Isn't that, can you all hear me? Okay. Isn't that what the noise, whatever you call yourself, the noisy committee, isn't that what you're supposed to be doing, is making recommendations for what we're going to change?
Well, yeah, but from a planning and zoning and from a staff perspective on projects, what if a person goes through DRC and they're coming and they're bringing a project that is the opposite of what's in the area now? Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if they understand that they would have to do that? And wouldn't that be something we should talk about?
Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea, but it's just like we talked, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago about an idea dealing on Las Olas with something. Like, well, this noise committee is going to be appointed to come up with some citywide solutions, so maybe we need to wait and see what they do. And I think it's a great idea, Jackie. I just think that we've got a committee that's probably going to come with multiple changes, and maybe we deal with all of them at the same
well,
time.
I'm part of that committee, but I was really excited about this principle because I thought it was very practical. It made a lot of sense. So if anybody's interested in learning more about it, email me and I'll send you the link. What?
I have some neighbors who would want to learn more about that.
Sure, I'm sure.
But I think that's great that you're moving along with that committee.
Well, that's not what my story was going to be about. I was hoping you guys would go, yeah, that's a great idea.
Great idea. I move we adjourn.
Oh my God, that's so insulting. Is there a second?
It is a great idea.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Mary, or Jay Scheckman.